Although I'm a huge fan of everything Japanese related, until just a couple of years ago my conception of an idol was, well, basically non-existent. Because idols are quite different from Western celebrities and can be found exclusively in some Asian countries such as Korea, China, and especially Japan. And well, if you're unfamiliar with the concept of idol, they are usually young girls aged 16 to around 27 that specialize in entertainment, mostly singing and dancing, but also acting and modeling. They usually are a part of a group and they heavily rely their success on interactions with fans, be it online or at concerts where they do meet and greets, take pictures, and shake hands. While the majority of their income comes from selling merchandise, and not so much from royalties as it happens with Western celebrities. They're very often seen as role models by the fans, so in most cases their public behavior is very tightly controlled by their agencies. Thus they are simply forbidden from things like smoking or drinking in public, as well as engaging in romantic relationships. And although I'm personally not a huge connoisseur of the idol world, that is definitely not something that can be said about Goro Amemiya, a young gynecologist that works in a small clinic in the countryside. Thanks to one of his patients, a young girl that absolutely adored an emerging idol group called Bikomachi, and especially their lead singer Ai Hoshino, he also becomes a big fan of the group, and when one day the young girl unfortunately succumbs to her illness, Goro decides to support for Ai Hoshino twice as much, sort of keeping his young patient's legacy alive. Some time passes and one day a pregnant woman comes to his clinic for a checkup. And surprisingly enough, once she shows her face, Goro realizes that the woman sitting in front of him is, well, none the less than his favorite idol, Ai Hoshino. The girl is pregnant with twins and decides to keep the identity of the father a secret. Although the pregnancy of a 16-year-old promising idol would be more often than not received in a very negative way from the public, Goro decides that the best way to show his love towards Ai is to help the girl give birth to two healthy children, following her all the way through the remaining months before the scheduled delivery date. When that day comes though, Goro is not able to fulfill his promise of being the one to help Ai deliver her children. Reason being? Well, because he gets brutally killed. On his way back home, Goro realizes that he is being stalked by a man, and when he refuses to give him information about Ai, the man pushes him off a cliff, killing him. I have a sort of a love-hate relationship with isekai. And by saying that, I mean that I think that it is mostly shit. With few exceptions here and there, but mostly it's a steaming hot pile of shit. But this anime, Oshinoko, managed to use the trope of reincarnation in one of the most original and unexpected ways I've seen yet. Watching this anime truly feels like randomly getting kicked in your balls at the most unexpected moments. Because, what happens at this point? Well, Goro, the gynecologist that was a huge fan of the 16-year-old idol, gets reincarnated as one of her newborn children, and gets named Aquamarine Hoshino, or Aqua for short. Now you may be wondering, is the other child, his new sister, also a reincarnated person? Well, yes. Yes, she is. Remember the ill girl that made Goro discover Bikomachi? Well, it's her. The two of them have widely different personalities. Goro becomes the biggest infant chat that ever crawled on the surface of Earth, refusing to even get breastfed by Ai, out of the sheer purity of his heart. At this point, my suspension of disbelief has not even been remotely shaken by all of the reincarnation shit now. But this bullshit? This is what made it crumble to pieces. Now, the two of them have the opportunity to live in an earthly paradise, being able to spend their days getting constantly pampered by their beloved idol. But unfortunately, this is not something that lasts forever. One day, just before Ai Hoshino's debut at the Tokyo Dome, considered to be the most prestigious scene for an idol to perform on, she gets murdered by the same person that killed Goro a couple of years earlier. Once again, this anime is absolutely fucking wild with its plot twists. It jumps from some incredibly wholesome scenes portraying this incredibly happy family bonding with each other to one of the most touching death scenes I've ever witnessed. I've gotta be honest, it's been a while since I teared up watching an anime. The last time probably being while watching My Dress Up Darling alone in my room at 2 AM and realizing how lonely my life actually is. But this one managed to make me straight up cry. Another reason why the scene feels so unexpected is the fact that up until this point the series portrayed Ai Hoshino as the main character, or at least as one of those the story's gonna revolve around the most. But no, fuck you, says Aka Akasaka. Well, by the way, if you don't know, is the creator of Kaguya-sama Love is War. I wonder, what on earth happened in this dude's life to make him go from writing scenes like this to this.
ルビー、アクア、愛してる。
Oh. Oh, okay. Okay, maybe that's what happened. But to be honest with you, this anime can definitely not be defined as just a drama. Sure, the drama is present, and it definitely is the one aspect that hits the hardest. But nonetheless, Oshinoko has an abundance of comedy in it, especially early on, exploring the relationship between the two siblings and the way they interact with the world and with others, while being adults trapped in children bodies. After Ice Death, the story takes a whole new approach, becoming a sort of a mystery revenge story with Aqua coming to the conclusion that the only reason for him to keep on living is to find his mother's killer and get his revenge. So sure, although Oshinoko manages to use the reincarnation trope in a pretty original way, calling Oshinoko an isekai mixed with a revenge story is probably the same thing as calling Attack on Titan a mecha with daddy issues. But somehow they managed to make all of these different genres mixed together in a very well balanced cocktail that never really lets you confused. Anytime one of the topics is explored for what might start to feel like just a little bit too long, a new aspect of the story comes out of nowhere to keep our TikTok-like minds with an attention span of 5 seconds entertained. As I already said earlier, the idol world is not something I've ever been particularly interested in. Yet the story is shown a completely new light on this world, digging balls deep in every little aspect of the behind the scenes of the idol industry, and in general of the entertainment industry in Japan. But on the surface might come off as a positive and serene environment where talents and hard work get appreciated and rightfully rewarded, while it's actually a completely rotten and corrupted system based on nothing else than a selfish and money-oriented mentality. The myth that idols are actually very well paid, considering that they are celebrities with a full-time working schedule, is, well, more often than not, just a myth. Considering that if they don't sell merchandise after their lives, it doesn't matter how hard they worked and how much time they spent practicing. They're not getting paid. But as we all know, no anime can be perfect without strong animation and a decent art style. And oh boy, does this series have them both. The character design is absolutely gorgeous, especially all the Hoshino family members with these amazing starry eyes. The environments are very detailed and never too plain. They always work very well together with the action that is happening, and the same can be easily said about the music department. The OST manages to always fit the scenes like a glove, while above the ending and especially the opening song, made by the Japanese band Yosubi. How weird, I've never heard of these guys, it's probably their first anime opening, isn't it? Yeah, it might be not their first one, but it's probably one of the best ones made by these guys, and it's also probably one of the most memorable songs of this season.